Welcome to Estate Talks. I'm George Compton, the publisher of Executorium.com. Today we have Cathi Nelson, the CEO and founder of the Photo Managers. Executors have a lot of duties, and often they come across boxes, albums, scattered pictures of family members. They find themselves the stewards of the legacy of the family. I hope they have some help. We have some help. We have Cathi here to tell us about how to handle some of those challenges. Cathi transformed her hobby of organizing photos for family and friends into a full-time business in 2009. The Photo Managers boasts 700 members, over 700 members worldwide, who help people organize, curate, and take care of their photos for sharing and storage and caretaking. Cathi, welcome to Estate Talks.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here. Good topic.
Excellent. So what is the importance of having a goal, and what are some examples?
Yeah, well, we break it down into 5 steps because it's overwhelming, especially if you've inherited or you're dealing with an estate where, again, like you mentioned, there's always going to be boxes of photos and old albums, maybe with photos of a lot of people you don't know. There's going to be home movies on outdated media formats. There's going to be slides and negatives and all sorts of things, right? So the first thing we say is really, what is the goal? It's like eating an elephant one bite at a time. So what is your goal in the process here? Is it to just go? What we would recommend is curating the collection so that you're really just getting it down to the top 10% of what's in that collection, because nobody really wants to inherit today anymore a lifetime of somebody's photos that may include photos that they inherited from an estate. Maybe their parents had passed away and they never did anything with those photos, and then those boxes have been moved down to the next generation. So the goal would be to really think about what do you want done with all these photos, videos in the future, and who's interested in them and who wants access to those.
Excellent. Well, those are all good questions and not obvious to the person staring at a box of Super 8s and 8mm and slides and pounds and pounds of stills. So I think that's important. And I think it's important to revisit those goals as you're going through. And as you say, it can be so overwhelming.
So the next step if we jump ahead and talk about, is the gathering everything into one place. So if you know what you have, it's really helpful to just do an inventory so that you realize, we have 7 boxes of loose photos. We have, 15 albums. Maybe if you quickly open up the albums, you can see if maybe there's some dates that somebody did write something, so you have an idea of the time. Maybe there's some dates on the little camcorders or things, and just use an Excel spreadsheet or something so that you really have just an idea of what it is. And bring, if it's in an estate, gather everything from all the basement and the bedrooms and the closets and everything, and get it all in one place so that you have a good sense of what it is that you have. I'm going to promise you that in there are just treasures from the past, right? It can be, when you're overwhelmed in that moment, you might just think, oh, I just don't want to deal with any of this. Let's just get rid of it. But I promise that is not what you want to do, because in there are going to be photos and stories and memories that are just priceless. So you can ask for help. I mean, there are professional photo managers who would come in and actually take all that away for you, curate the collection based on some interviewing process, and digitize it and do all that for you. So there is help at thephotomanagers.com for that process. And maybe the family members could divide up the cost of that, but just say that's not possible. So once you have everything in one place and you know what you have, the second thing we talk about is the curation, is to go through, and this is going to take some time, but you can do it fairly quickly. Get some big garbage bags. The VCR tapes and all the little camcorders, those should be taken to an expert to be digitized, because there are just treasures on there, and I wouldn't throw those away, but they do need to be digitized. And many professional photo managers do that for a living, or you can do it over say 6 months. Maybe from a budget perspective, you say, we're going to do 5 a month. And because once those are digitized, they're in a media file format that you can store on the cloud on an external hard drive, and you'll have access forever. But the actual physical photos, if you have a big garbage bag, we recommend that you eliminate 80 to 90% of them, because really And that means just being brutally honest. Like, you don't need all the photos of the scenery shots. You don't need all the photos of the travel vacations, the cruise ship, the Grand Canyon, the Colosseum in Rome, or the sunsets and things like that. What matters are the people in the photos, and maybe some of the historical, like old cars, or your house that, from the 1930s, and what the trees look like in front. Those are the things that really people care about. And so that's what you want to kind of put aside. Get a large, banker box or a photo safe box, and just, we call those the A photos, archival worthy album photos. Just quickly put them in there and give yourself permission to be really brutal in terms of throwing things away that don't really matter as much. And then from there, you want to digitize those photos that are in that A box, the ones that you care most about. And again, a professional can do that, or you can, box them up, and after the estate is settled, or when you have more time, you can certainly purchase scanners. It's a tedious process, but it's so worth it. And also, a lot of times you can also have many of those photos restored. So if they're yellowed or they're discolored, it's amazing how those can be brought back to life. And if there's any opportunity to get stories, especially if the family is gathering, is to maybe even set up your phone with a mic on it. I mean, there's ways to capture stories with lots of great technology today, but get people talking about those photos and those stories. Did you all go on vacation every year to, oh gosh, I remember when we went to Disney in 1964, gather some of those stories to go along with those photos. Because once they've been digitized, you want to make sure then you're creating a backup copy, and then you can distribute that to the whole family. Everybody can get a copy through an external hard drive or through a flash drive, and then you want to find a good cloud storage backup site as well. Mm-hmm. And again, the technology today is amazing, so people can go in and tell stories around those photos. There's lots of ways to do that, because the sharing and enjoying is the last of those 5 steps. We talk about the best part is the sharing and enjoying that. All those memories coming back. If you're cleaning out an estate before the funeral and you have time, you can, make the funeral beautiful boards, poster boards, or a video montage of telling the stories. People love to look at that. It brings back so many memories, right? To see somebody, I lived, I was here, they were here, they lived a life, they have a story, and that's what's captured in all those photos.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a cathartic process in this as well, where you're going through the 100%, and you're, for lack of a better phrase, separating the wheat from the chaff, as you are with so much of the contents of an estate. Important to, unburden the family from, the chaff, and so you can move the best parts along. What's becoming popular are legacy books, where you can take the better parts of what you find, the treasures, as you say, and compile them. And there is a healthy element to that, to memorialize someone you've lost. And I always like that idea. I have a question, Cathi. Negatives. Is there a fidelity benefit or a resolution benefit to recreating a good photograph from a negative as opposed
Well,
to
the
a
best
print?
reproduction of a photograph would come from the negative, because it's the original source. If you wanted to do that, it can cost a little bit more, because but negatives for sure are the number, are the best source. But it depends on, but if people already printed all those photos, and then they kept the negatives at the same time, it's just it's a decision to make. I'm going to scan the actual printed photo, and then with photo restoration software and things, those can be brought back to life in a good way. So it's okay to throw those things away.
So when you say scan, I can set my scanner for a PDF. I can set my scanner up for a JPEG or a PNG or a TIFF or a bitmap or a who knows what. So what do you have any advice about getting the best resolution, getting the best fidelity out of the photograph when one
Yeah,
does
we
scan?
recommend for printed photos that 600 DPI is the best, is what we recommend, because you'll be able to then reduplicate the photo in a better, it's all dots per inch. And so a lot of people, there's a lot of mystery around what does all that mean? But I think that would be the number one recommendation from the photo managers. A lot of our members do camera scanning now, which is they're actually taking a photograph of so it's not really a scan. And that can produce really great results based on the kind of lens that they're using and things like that. So it's, but you definitely want to there's inexpensive ways to do this, but we joke about scanning. Sometimes it's like, you're booking a flight. I just did that recently. I got a really cheap. I started out at 82. I think it was $42, and by the time I paid, it was up to 160 because I did want to bring a bag, to put underneath the seat and stuff. So it's kind of that same idea with scanning. Sometimes you can find what starts out to look like a low price, but when you add the DPI on and you add the better quality and things, like suddenly you're up into a higher price. So you want to make sure that you're paying, if you're going to pay to have your photo scanned, that you're working with a reputable person, company that's going to do a good job for you.
Great. And there's obviously two ways to go, where you can have a professional and they're doing this all the time and they understand these questions. If you're DIY and you're sitting there with a scanner and you're sending it around to family member, one thing I'd point out is be careful of as you're transmitting these photographs, what does your emailing do to the size of the
Oh,
photograph?
yeah, you don't want to be emailing. Yeah, right,
Right.
because it's going to condense the file size, pretty quickly. And really, your best bet is, first of all, to use cotton gloves. Here's some tips. So if you're going through those boxes of photos and there's a lot, wear cotton gloves, masks, because there's mold spores and things on that, especially if nobody's opened them up in, 25, 30 years. So you do want to be careful of that because there's dust and things like that. And then when you're going to do the scanning yourself, get a soft cloth and clean those photos, because if you scan them, any of the dust that's on those photos is going to be captured on the scan, and then they get that grainy look. So if you want them to look good, you want to make sure that you do that. That's really important in the process of what you're doing. And then just take the time to put them on you can get external hard drives for really inexpensive today. So you plug that into your computer and you're scanning it onto that, and then you can duplicate that, but it'll keep the original size as opposed to like emailing photos or
Excellent.
putting
And
them on
then,
Facebook. You don't want to put them on Facebook.
yeah, no, well, and then of course you have the original, so someone will ultimately be the steward of the originals going forward, and you don't want to be putting those back into the box that your dad got at the liquor store in 1963. You want to have a proper storage method. I'm familiar with archival methods.
Oh, good. I
Kind
was
of,
gonna, those are good friends of ours. I was gonna say archival methods out of Rochester, New York. You can purchase. They're really great, real helpful, and you can get archival, sleeves and boxes and things to keep those original, because the originals are still your source. The original source is really important.
yeah, keep them out of the sunlight. Acid-free boxes are important. Sleeves, of course, as you say. So there's this to me, this was very fun doing this. I mean, there was a mountain of things to do with the estate, but you find yourself, okay, I'm the steward of all this family legacy, family history. Maybe you have a brother or a sister or somebody who can help with this while you tend to the fiduciary matters, but you're kind of the legacy fiduciary. You find yourself needing to move this on in a careful way. And so thank you very much for these tips that just help us frame this and do this in the right way. And if you need help, the Photo Managers has a best practices paper on their website, thephotomanagers.com. And also, of course, there is the steps you want to take. You want to establish your goals. You want to sort and organize. You want to save in the proper way and share. So keeping your goals first and foremost as you're going through this pile, I think is very important, and that's just such great advice, Cathi. And Photo Managers uh, is a good reference to turn to when you do need some help. So, any other tips, Cathi,
I,
before we
yeah,
depart?
I think one last important thing is people wonder, does the next generation really care about all these photos? And we say, yes, they absolutely do. They don't care about all of them, but they do want the ones that matter. And especially, if you have kids, young adults in their 20s and 30s, right now they're not thinking about it. But if they become parents someday, or the nostalgia starts, or they want to know. I wish now, I mean, I thought I had asked my grandparents all the questions I wanted, but no, every, once in a while a new one will pop into my mind. And I think, gosh, I wish I had more photos. Of course, I didn't take the kind of photos in those days that we have, but I wish I had more. I wish I had more of the stories around those photos. So when you have the families together and stuff, get those stories. That's what really matters, and it's what connects us. We're as human beings. We're wired to be connected, and the way we do that is really a lot of times through these legacy assets, of which are our photos, videos, and keepsake items.
Very good. Very good. Well, I always say it's not 2024, it's 2044, and Uncle John is not here anymore, and Aunt Darcy is passed on, and mom and dad are not available for those stories. So get the stories now.
Yep.
Attach them to the photos. You don't want to attach them to 5,000 photos. You want to attach them to the top 50 photos, and make sure they're there in 2044. So every estate is different. Thank you, Cathi, and the photo
Okay, thank
managers
you.
for helping executors understand some of the basics of family photo management. And thank you for watching Estate Talks.
Okay, bye-bye, everybody.